Okay. Welcome, everybody. You are listening to the Startup Secrets for Entrepreneurs, and I am your host, Shelby Oleschlager. Our mission here is to help entrepreneurs make a difference and navigate the messy world of startup or relaunch. Join me today where we dig deep with our guests to get you the best concepts and strategies to fast track your business. Today, our special guest is Alex Street, who's joining us today, and I'm really excited to chat with Alex after I just heard the word of storytelling. So, Alex, I just want to say thank you for joining. And just to get started, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, it is such a pleasure to be here, an absolute joy. I'm excited for this conversation. So yeah, I'm your story coach. I help small business owners, online coaches, online business owners to clarify their story so they can speak about themselves with confidence. And I love what I do. I love doing it in one-on-one work, and that's where the magic really happens. So that's how I'm showing up today.
Perfect. I love that. Love that intention. So tell us a little bit about the backstory. How does one become a storytelling coach?
Yeah, this is good. This is a specialty. I'll give you the 30-second version here, and then we can unpack however much you want to. So, I've always been a storyteller. My mom was an actress. My dad was a photographer, and me and my brother absorbed that. And I went into acting, into public speaking as a youth pastor, and tried to tell stories in all those different ways, but always felt confused, like maybe you have, Shelby, and why my audience isn't reacting the way I want them to, and would bend and twist my message and my identity to fit what I thought they wanted. And it wasn't until a mastermind that I was in just a few years ago when somebody looked at me and said, "Your story is your superpower, Alex. You need to teach us how to tell stories like you do." And I've leaned into that ever since, and now show up with that kind of clarity, no more confusion, knowing exactly what I'm here to do and helping other people do the same.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit of the power of our stories?
Well, it's why you lead the question. Let me flip that back on you and say, I assume I'm not the only person, though I am a focus on story. When you start your interviews, is that one of the first questions that you ask? What's your story? How did you get into this?
Yeah. What do you do?
Yeah. Can I ask why you would ask someone to that? Like, why would you say, how do you get into this?
Because it's interesting to know their backstory, where they came from, and how their journey has led them to a certain destination that they're on. I find that intriguing.
So I think that's it. There's a certain, that's one element of it, right? There's a curiosity that we just want to know what got this person there. It's the how did you get into that question. It's what path did you follow possibly to get to the point where you got to. And for some people, it might be clearer, we might make up the story in our mind, but we love to satisfy that curiosity. That's just one element of it. The power of it, Shelby, is in the connection. It's in the emotional connection that we feel to another human when we get insight into how they felt, what kind of experience they had to make them now how they feel today, and how they're showing up and helping people today came from a place that actually isn't too far away from the same place I was in.
Right.
So when I can say something like, I felt confused showing up, as confident as I may have seemed, I was living in constant confusion, and still do, honestly. That's something that people will relate to and say, oh yeah, I get that. We're in totally different businesses, but you can identify with the feeling of connection. That's the power, or the feeling of confusion. That's the power of telling a story and telling it with clarity like that, so that people have a really quick connection to you on a level much deeper than you can create by simply talking about what you do or how you do it.
Right. So when you're helping these clients really uncover their stories, what are ways that you want them to start to leverage their story?
Yeah, it's such a beautiful process, because most people come to me saying my story is too complicated. It's too confusing. It's too big. I don't know how to communicate it. So I'll just talk about, I work with a lot of coaches and a lot of fitness coaches, business coaches, and the like. And a lot of people just love to lead with, this is my program. Sign up for my program. I'm launching this program. And we don't talk about why we care about this or our stories, because it's too confusing or too complicated. So I like to truly simplify that as much as possible and talk about the technique of storytelling that we've used from the very beginning, which is a basic 3-act structure. So if I can help you kind of see your story within those 3 acts, then you get to leverage that simplicity and then stand on that foundation and speak about anything else, knowing that it's always coming back to that main foundation. Just like it was with me, confusion to clarity. When you can clarify that transformation that you've experienced, Shelby, you now know exactly what you're speaking to and where you're drawing people into, what you're inviting them into. And that is how we leverage the story to then go and expand anything else for our business from there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just uncovering and making it simple. So you said that there's the 3 components. Can you touch on those a little bit just for us to try and understand our story in ways that make sense for our audience that they'll resonate with?
Yeah. So, I mean, your story should be an arc, not a list.
Okay.
And this is where a lot of people get hung up, is they think about their story as that this happened, then this happened, then this happened. It's like you're going to look at a TV show on Netflix. And do you like Friends? Do you like watching Friends?
Of course.
I mean, who doesn't, right?
Yeah.
So you've got the one where, Joey wears all the clothes, the one where Chandler doesn't like a dog, the one with the couch or something. And it's just this list of events, but you have no idea what they're doing or why you should watch this show until somebody comes to you and says, look, this is a show about friends becoming family, people going from friends to family. Now you're invested. Now you feel a connection to that. So if there was some way that you could simply find that sort of a transformation in your story, that would be so much more powerful than you showing up and saying, I went to school for this, I got this job, I quit that job, now I started my own business because the pandemic hit and I had no idea what else to do or which way was up, and I had a lot of time on my hands. That's a list of events. So if you want to figure out with this transformation story arc, you just need to identify in your story who I am. That's the right now, how you're showing up right now. Then what happened to get you here? What was a main turning point that shifted things to get you to be who you are now? And then you just go before that and say, well, who was I before that? Who I was, what happened, who I am, and the transformation points from who I was to who I am. And you've got your story to tell.
Perfect. Yeah, that makes it a lot simpler, and just knowing like the three process type thing. And I guess when you actually share that part, you're going to attract the actual clients that you want to attract, that are going to resonate with your messaging and with that. So for your own self, how has that been for you with trying to share your work and get your clients? Like, how does that process work for your own story?
Yeah, I mean, so that's the invitation, right? Is anybody out there that's feeling confused in their messaging and how to show up, I can help you find clarity. Why? Because I've been there.
Right.
I totally understand that. And I see that, I feel that, and I recognize I have this gift of storytelling that I've had all along. And so I can help you leverage your story and connect with your audience like never before. So as I show up, it could be anything from me literally sharing that story that I shared with you on Instagram and just going, hey, here's the story. I just right now posted a 27-second story about a moment that showed up for me where somebody said, you need to teach us to speak like you do. Kind of what I said to you earlier. And so to simplify it down to 27 seconds and tell a story that is inviting people in to see how I've changed and how I can help you change, that's the power right there. So I show up with anything from like literally telling the story to showing up with a storytelling tip every day, let's say on my stories on Instagram. Yeah. It shows up in my About Me page on my website, in crafting a structure in that so that it's never just my story, but you feel like it's your story. Mm-hmm. It shows up in my podcast when I'm hosting No Boring Stories and I'm helping my guests tell their own story. I work them through that framework. It shows up literally all day, every day for me, Shelby. This is what I do. And it's always trying to see, where are people confused and how can I bring clarity in the most simple and clear way possible? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess also the fact you're working with entrepreneurs or people that want to share their story in whatever way. So you kind of helping them through that process would be so beneficial. You mentioned something that I want to go back on, just about your why. Yeah. I'm always curious to know people's why. So I'd like to know yours with this. And also, why do you think having a solid why is so important?
Yeah, this is a great question, because a lot of people will say, my why is my kids, right? It's like my why is, I want to retire my parents or something like that. And I'm like, great, that's noble. That's beautiful. That's not why you're doing the work you do now. The why behind your work is attached to some sort of unique individual transformation that you have experienced, apart from your parents, apart from your kids, apart from whatever the thing is that you imagine about living on a beach and selling coconuts when you have the freedom that you will have in your entrepreneurial success. There's something deep in your core that's driving you for the why. And when you identify that, that is unbreakable, Shelby. That is the thing that will go beyond any dip that you experience in your sales, because you are so driven towards why your work is making an impact in this world, why your work matters. So for me, that why comes back to this confusion around like, well, when I perform, like the audience isn't responding. Or they're not doing what I want them to do. They're not reacting the way I want them to react. And so I'll try to shape who I am according to them. And what my mom helped me see, actually, my mom, the actress, I followed in her footsteps all through my life. Wanted to be just like her. I remember hearing her connect with an audience. I was sitting backstage. She was performing and she would crack a joke and the audience would laugh. I'm like, this is magical. Yeah. How can you have that effect on an audience? So that led me to then want to have that effect. 10 years ago, she gets hit with cancer really hard. And within 4 weeks, we watched her go into the ER and then watched her breathe her last. And as I was sitting by her bedside in those last days, thinking through the questions that you think through in a moment like that, I asked her, what do you love? What did you love about what you did as an entertainer, as a performer? And she said, it was the gift that I gave to people. It was the fact that I could do something here that they could take with them when they left the theater, and it might change their life there. That shook something for me, Shelby. That sparked a new definition of why I do what I do, because the story I tell here might change your story and affect the lives that only you connect to. Your story matters. And when you share your story, you shape the world. That's why I do what I do.
Applause. Oh my goodness. Wow. That is so powerful. And yeah, that's incredible. I don't know. It definitely is important. And just the fact that everyone does have their story and has that power within them is also really beautiful. To hopefully people will feel more empowered after hearing you share that, to say, I do have my story and my story matters. And that ripple effect is so magical that you can potentially have. And I'm sure you feel that with your clients of.
Well, absolutely. Because there's people that they're connected to that I will never see. So it's why I care so much about the one-on-one process. I could do a lot of things. I love to speak on stage. So one-on hundreds is amazing. But the process that I bring people through, going this one-on-one connection, because I know that if I impact you, then you're going to be clear with your audience and the pitches that you're going to make and the investors that you're going to invite in, and however big this brand, this business is that you're building, you get to now take this foundation of your clarity and go and build that thing quicker and more clearly than ever before. And that, you're right, to see that as my role in this, that's an honor, and it's exciting, and it's certainly not too small.
Yeah.
It drives me.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. And I feel like entrepreneurs usually have that similarity within ourselves, that we want to do that. We want to be of service and do what we like, use our gifts to do that. So within your own work that, you've been building for yourself, building your clients and helping them, has there been any sort of surprising obstacles that you've had to face within your own business of trying to share your message to help these people?
Yeah, of course. And this is it. This is the clarity that I face. I'll tell you exactly today. I mean, I just showed up on my stories, and I try to be open with this stuff and share about this, because I know that, especially in this line, what I do in communicating and helping other people communicate, I need to be consistently communicating. I need to consistently show up. There's no way around that. Mm-hmm. So how do I show up daily on Instagram and share something of value? Believe it or not, that's a struggle. And what happens is I sit here and I go, man, what is the thing that I should show up and say today? What is it good enough? No, there's an idea. No, that's not good enough. And as soon as that voice comes in, what is that? That's the same voice that I've heard since I was a teenager, thinking they're not going to like what I show up with. Mm-hmm. So I'm in this state of confusion. Literally this morning, 5 hours ago, I was in that state, and I can sit there and I can get so frustrated about it. But then I go, oh, wait. No, I know. I have clarity. I know exactly what I'm here to do. I'm here to talk about storytelling. I'm here to talk about moving through this transformation from confusion to clarity. When you find yourself in who you used to be, mm-hmm. you can remind yourself of who you are. And so show up like that and share that whole journey. And there's your content for today. Mm-hmm. So there's the big barriers, the big jumps that I've had to go through and figure out in my business, and the dead months, and the failed launches, and those moments have come. But I think the most significant things is when it comes down to a very mundane nothing moment. Like, what do I say on my stories today? Mm-hmm. And then reminding myself of the story that I've been through is the story that I'm going through. And so I will get through this moment as well. I'm going to share that whole journey. Mm-hmm.
And I guess with that outlook, you're never going to run out of content or things to share because you're always evolving and going through it.
So brilliant. Exactly. Yeah. That's the joy. So yeah, and this is the best TV shows. I mean, look at Friends. Again, how could they go 10 seasons? Because they always knew who they were. Mm-hmm. They always knew what the transformation was. In any given episode, how do we make them grow more like family than distant friends?
Right.
That's it. Now we put them into these hilarious situations, and there you go. One of the most successful shows ever on TV.
That's true, actually. I never really thought of Friends quite like that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense.
I know it's such a fun game. Now you can go and you can see this, and I play this actually with like any different TV shows or even movies. Harry Potter, what's his transformation? Right. From lost to loved, alone to love, from the beginning when he's in a cupboard under the stairs to the end and he's standing with his friends on the bridge and says, I've had enough trouble for one lifetime. What's the change that has happened in his life? And you start playing that game, then you start to see the transformation all over the place. And then you start to see it in your life. And then you start to be able to translate that and communicate that more clearly. And then nobody's ever going to not know what you're about.
Yeah. It just feels so powerful actually to like grasp that concept and to use it for yourself. To me, like, I'm just thinking like, yeah, like everyone's gone through these things, and to actually feel empowered enough to appreciate almost your own journey enough to share it in hopes that it will inspire others. I think that's just amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah. So speaking of your own, I guess, like the transformation, so you're doing more one-on-one stuff right now. What would you say, like in the next year to come, do you have any goals for your own coaching business?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I see, I'm wondering how this becomes a brand unto itself. Right now I'm a technician, according to the E-Myth, great book. There's the technician and the manager and the entrepreneur. And I'm working like a technician. I'm working like somebody who just has a skill and is getting paid for it. And I'm wondering how to grow this thing. I'm working on growing this beyond just me. Does that look like training other coaches to coach in the story coaching, method? Does it look like, books and different training opportunities? What does this look like to expand this beyond myself to be something that is ultimately makes a much bigger impact around the world with story coaching? So this process, even of me going down, like clarifying and focusing on only one-on-one. I know a lot of people are like, you can't grow a business with one-on-one. I am, and it is. How scalable that is, that's what I'm talking about now. But the need to focus on the one thing is so that I'm not burning all this mental energy trying to figure out what's the next launch, what's the next product, what's the next thing. I'm solely focusing on this so that any extra mental energy is going towards how do I build this bigger, longer lasting, more impactful thing around this product that I've got right now. And is that even possible?
I think
what a time to be alive.
Yeah, right. There's so much possible right now. And I think what you said is really true. Like I just took away, focusing what you're good at, and just like you said, the one thing. That's such a good book, just focusing on one thing and being, if you can do that really well. And also, like you said, the referrals potentially, or just that ripple effect of you impacting these lives. And yeah, there's no doubt that it's going to definitely get there. But
exactly. And it's scary because that you say referrals. Yeah. My business is completely based on referrals right now. Okay. And if this person, if I get into this community and then they've got, loyal followers, then maybe that's the place to be in. And then they will tell their friends and they'll tell their friends. And so there's part of that and learning sales in a whole new way. Again, I'm a performer first. I'm not a businessman first, but I'm learning that, and I'm learning to do that first, and learning to do that now. And as I learn that, it's a whole new level, and it's bringing up all these fears that used to be here in my story that are now being uncovered in a whole new way. This is the real stuff, Shelby.
Yeah, it's raw and real. I like it. But it's cool because there's so many people that go through similar things or that are experiencing a lot of the same things. And I really hope listeners that are hearing your story will be able to relate and know that that process is totally normal, to feel that fear or to feel all these things that's like kind of the fun and joy of being an entrepreneur, is that we want to be pushed and go outside of our comfort zone. That's kind of, to me anyways, like that's been the point, is to want to level up my own life and also the lives of people around me. This brings me to one of my final questions, one of them, but is there anything now that you're here, you got this figured out, you're going strong, is there something that you wish that you knew sooner?
Yeah, I mean, the big practical lesson that I'm learning right now is managing my own schedule. And it's really, for some people that comes easy. It certainly hasn't for me. And it's not just a practical thing. It's the limiting beliefs that's attached to that. I'm a free spirit, and and sometimes I'm just lazy. I don't box me in, like those things that feel like, some of them feel like that's who I am. Enneagram 7. Let's just go with it. Right. And like, that's who I am. But then what I'm realizing is, no, like, one of the most foundational things I need, again, to run a business rather than just sell a product, to run a business, I need structure that I can play within. So instead of set me free on the beach to build whatever I want, I'm actually better in a sandbox with walls, and then let me build whatever I want within that sand. So I'm learning now, and I wish I learned this sooner, how to set those walls and boundaries for myself instead of relying on anybody else to do that for me, and hold myself accountable to that. Yeah.
So how have you done that? Because someone who is the exact same, it's like, oh, I don't need a schedule, or like, I like do the work, but for the most part, it's very seat of my pants type thing. So how have you built these walls?
Well, I mean, I hired a coach, and one of the main focuses of having that coach is to keep me accountable to do things that typically I go, I'll do that tomorrow. I'll do that another day. So this is things like calling for referrals. And he's like, okay, you need to do this many by next week. So be it. If I don't, what's he going to do? But I'm going to feel embarrassed. I'm going to feel like I've let myself down. Right. So part of that was that, but now we're actually at the point where my calendar, Shelby, looks like it's like blocked, right? So it's blocked according and through weeks and weeks of practicing and trying to figure out, what do I need to make my business thrive? Well, I know that I need to create. I know that I need to prospect. I know that I need to connect with clients. I know that I need to actually do my coaching calls. I know that I need to plan for the future. I know that I need movement and meditation. So I put all those things that I think would just come naturally to me and I'll just think about doing on any given Tuesday. Mm-hmm. I just block those actually in my calendar and say, here's an hour for contacting clients. And at my best, that's what I do for that hour. At my best. I'm learning to live every day at my best. But at least I know there's something that I should be doing. And I know that if I walk through this week exactly as planned, I will hit all the markers that my business needs to thrive. And therefore, that should turn out the results that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I love that.
Activity first. Activity lets the vision thrive. And that's where I'm learning.
The action's definitely important. And I guess even like take it a step further for you, it's the intention for the action. Like if you actually intend,
of course.
So yeah.
Yeah. Be, do, have, right? So I want to have this successful business. Well, then what do I do? And I've kind of just been hanging out in that do, but now I'm learning how to be that kind of business owner that does these kind of things to have the results that I dream of.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Very, very key. I think like I said earlier, I kind of struggled with that and think the accountability is really important as well. And just the confidence you get from knowing that you did the thing, you actually followed through. Like you said, the be, do, have, you're like, oh yeah, I'm actually doing it.
Well, I showed up on a coaching call last week. I'm hosting a group coaching and somebody asked the question, like, it's me and I'm collaborating with somebody to lead this thing. And they said, what's your DMOs, your daily modes of operation? I was like, actually, here, let me show you my calendar. And their jaws dropped. And somebody said, Alex, you're such a planner. So there goes the limiting belief that I held, right? That limiting belief of I'm lazy and I just wing it, whatever. Somebody literally said in a group with witnesses, Alex, you're a planner. Wow. So goodbye to that story of confusion. I'm always confused in how to do that and everything. That's what happens when you put the action in and then you show up with it. Mm-hmm. Then you have the opportunity to start to change that story and transform it in a way like maybe you never thought was possible.
Yeah. Yeah. The limiting beliefs definitely are a huge one. And I think we can kind of wrap up with that. So for people listening that really resonate with your message, they want to learn more from you, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. I hang out on Instagram. Find me if you listen to this podcast, find me at Street Says, shoot me a DM. I'm always in there and would love to help you with any of this. And specifically, if you need some clarity on your story, like we can just do the work right there in the DMs and get the conversation started. So don't be shy. Find me there or alexstreet.ca and you can find all the goodness there as well.
Perfect. Yeah, everyone, don't be shy. Doesn't hurt to put yourself out there and just ask. You never know, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you on behalf of myself. I definitely took a lot of things away from this conversation. I really hope other people did as well. So thank you so much for sharing some of your wisdom with us today.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome.